Parshat Shelach has within it perhaps the most difficult of the episodes to understand in Sefer Bamidbar, and that is the sending of the spies, the chief men, each one a nasi, a prince of his tribe, to tour out the land of Israel, coming back with a negative report. And with the exception of Kalev and Yoshua, who said positive things about Eretz Yisrael, the whole mission was a failure. The people were convinced that they were unable to go into the land, and we've been crying ever since on the night of Tisha B'Av. Obviously, what went wrong? Why did the people want to send spies? What was the mindset of the spies? It's an overall question that we try every time we study this to get a bit of a handle on, but the question is clearly beyond our understanding, but nevertheless, we'll make attempts today. So therefore, instead of looking at this broad question, I'd like to look at three much more specific questions. The first is the dynamics. The people came to Moshe Rabbeinu and they said, we want to send spies. Moshe Rabbeinu asked the Kadosh Baruch Hu, to which Hashem said, this is the end of 3, I have told them the land is good, but since they question me, I will let them test my veracity. And that's Shelach Lecha. Send according to your knowledge. I'd prefer that they shouldn't go, but if you want to, you can send, at the risk of being misled and losing their chance to enter the land. The Hebrew is in 15, Chayeihem shani noten lehem makom litot leman lo yershuha. Says Hashem, I'm telling you, I'm going to give them room to make an error so that they shouldn't go into the land. This medrash seems to be very difficult at first glance. It's as if HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kivyochol is setting us up for failure. He's saying, I'm telling you, it's going to be a place of mistake. I'm warning you, they're not going to go in. Does that not take away Bechira, free choice? Do we not have free choice to decide? It's as if Hashem is stacking the decks that of course we're going to fail. How do we understand that medrash? Question 2 and 3 are connected to the name change of Yoshua. Source number 2, these are the names of the men who Moshe sent to spy out the land. It gives a whole list. And Moshe called Hoshea, son of Nun, Yehoshua. So Targum Yonasan tells us why. When Moshe saw the humility of Yoshua. So obviously we need to understand what is the connection between the humility of Yoshua and the fact that it was because of his humility Moshe Rabbeinu said, better change his name. What's the connection between the two? And the final question is, the name change is adding a Yud at the beginning, from Hoshea to Yehoshua. And as Rashi brings down, Ka Yoshecha Me'atzat Meraglim, Yud K, is HaKadosh Baruch Hu should save you from the reports of the negative spies. The question we need to ask, with this Rashi aside, is why is it specifically that Moshe Rabbeinu added the Yud at the beginning of his name, and not, let's say, Avraham Avinu, the Hey was out in the middle of his name, and his name would have been Hoi Sha, Hashem should save. Why is it specifically the Yud at the beginning, not in the middle, not at the end? What is the significance of having the Yud K at the beginning of Yoshua's name? I'd like to try to take a look at two approaches, two levels to answer these questions, and clearly within both levels to try to understand how this section is nitzchias for our lives. Every story in the Chumash is meant to teach us a lesson. We're not sending out spies. We're not checking out lands. We're not in that situation. What message? There are many messages, but what are some of the messages that we can inculcate for our lives? Level number 1, I'd like to begin on the second page in source number 8 with the Tasha Rebbe Avodat Avodah. He says, Al kein nasbir ha'inyan al pi darchei havodah. Diyadu misfarim ha'kdoshim, dibinyan milchemet b'nei Yisrael im shivat hamamim, hayu tmirim v'gnizim inyanim pnimim v'amukim. Let us not be mistaken that when we're going out, and when Klal Yisrael were told to fight these 7 mighty nations, that we're just talking about a physical battle, that we're just talking about the external battlefield. No, we're dealing with deep secrets here as well. The Shiva Sa'amamim, Haknania, Kritia, Moria, Prithia, Chiviv, Yusiva, Gershkoshi. These 7 nations, Romzim, hint at, Neged, Shiva, Hamidos, Haros, Shemitzada, Klipa. We're familiar with the 7 basic mitos, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Gvura, Malchus, and Yesod. So there's a positive element to them, like Gvura de Kedusha, like having strength to withstand outside influences and be able to do the will of God. And then there's Gvura, there's strength, like Esav, who's killing and doing whatever he'd like to do. You can take any of these mitos, Chesed, and you could do acts of kindnesses, or you could do Chesed and pervert kindness. These nations represented the perversion of these 7 mitos. And in fact, if we take a look at the end of 14, when the spies come back, they say, V'chol ha'am asher ra'inu b'tocham anshei midot. They describe these nations